Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Adam Charlton, and I have with me Dr. Sam Brooker, who's our program convener for our MA in Advertising and PR and our MA in Public Relations and Journalism. These are the two degree programs we're going to be discussing today with you. Before we begin, I just want to say that unfortunately we won't be running our MA PR Public Relations and Journalism degree this September, but we are planning on still offering it in January and next year. So we're still going to give you full details about this degree, but just to highlight that I'm afraid that we'll no longer be offering this degree in September. So today I'm going to take you through what these two master's degrees can offer you, why you should study these at Richmond, the American International University in London, and what makes us a unique institution here in the UK. Sam will take you through the programme structure, and then we'll give you some details on the application process, tuition fees, scholarships, and then we'll have a question and answer session at the end. I'm sure we will answer lots of your questions as we go through the presentation, but please do type in any questions you have into this questions box. So you'll know you all have a grey sort of control panel on your screens, and there's a questions box in there. Please do type any questions you have into the chat here, and then when we get to the Q&A session at the end, we'll be able to answer those for you. Just want to give you a quick sort of update on the COVID-19 situation here in the UK. So the UK government and all UK universities are preparing for face-to-face teaching on campus in September, so starting this September. And the government are sort of supporting us to do that. As a university, we've made lots of we've put lots of safety measures in place and made our sort of campus COVID secure, and put social distancing measures in place to make sure that, yeah, we're not going to have any sort of outbreaks in the fall, and to make sort of the campus COVID compliant. And that's proved very successful. And last year during the pandemic, we only had one COVID-19 outbreak on campus, and we received some really good feedback from our students about yeah, how safe they felt. We will of course keep you, this is a changing situation, or it's an evolving situation, and government regulations are being updated and changing all the time, and we will keep you updated of those as we over the next few months before the start of the course. So on the screen now, you can see that our MA Advertising and PR, this is designed to give you a career in sort of advertising, in public relations, where that might be at a creative or media agency, or perhaps at a digital agency, or perhaps more in an in-house PR organisation. You'd also be in a position to look to do journalism, to do a career in journalism, and then perhaps digital journalism or PR as well. For those of you that haven't heard of Richmond before, we are a special university here in the UK because we're the only university that awards students a American and UK degree at both bachelor's and master's degree level. We are a genuinely international university, meaning that the majority of our students do not come from one specific nationality. We have a very international curriculum, and we have a motto of unity and diversity, and that is something that we try and incorporate into the curriculum, into all the activities that we do. On all our master's programs, you will be taught by academic experts and industry specialists, so you're getting that practical industry knowledge, as well as the academic foundations and underpinnings that you will need. We have a graduate employment rate of 93%. This means that within 6 months of leaving university, all of 93% of our graduates are in graduate level work or in further education. We have small class sizes, so average class size at master's degree level, or for these programs rather, is 20 students. This means that your lecturers will know you by name. You will develop personal relationships, professional personal relationships with them, and that's something that is really to be cherished. You know, at larger institutions, you're going to be sitting in a lecture hall with 100 other people. You're not going to know your lecturer's name. You're not going to have that personal attention and support, and you won't have that opportunity for sort of research and academic collaboration that Sam will tell you a bit more about in a few more slides. We have a high number of contact hours, so you're going to be doing a minimum of 9 hours teaching per week. That's slightly higher than other UK universities. And you are going to have your own personal academic advisor to help guide you through the year. And then as a Richmond graduate, not only will you have a UK degree and a US degree, you'll also join our alumni network, which spans 140 countries and is made up of over 15,000 alums. This is a great sort of resource for you to utilise and tap into, both as a student, but then when you graduate as well. And obviously you are based in London. London is the global centre for PR, journalism, advertising, for creative industries in general. So it is the place to be if you are going to be looking for a graduate job. For when you are doing your internship, you're going to have the option to do internships at some great organisations which have offices here in London. And so we really feel this is a key factor for you. And obviously London is consistently voted the world's #1 international student city. I'm now going to hand you over to Dr. Sam Brooker, who will take you through some of the academic aspects of the degrees.
Thanks so much, Adam. So hello, everybody. A lot of the things I'm going to be talking about in this slide, I'll be covering as I go into a more detailed breakdown of the structure of the program, the kind of specific features of it, and so on. But these are some of the key things that I think are worth bearing in mind as we're kind of going through this, and when you're considering whether this is a good fit for you, kind of professionally, personally, educationally, and so on. So firstly, we have this point here about the detailed knowledge of advertising and PR and journalism. So unlike you'd find in many other master's programs, this is a highly kind of industry-focused, professional skills focused master's program, just kind of skilling you for these work environments. And we're talking about the detailed knowledge. It's just not just about the kind of academic component. Both myself and Dr. Simon Target, who you'll be hearing about in a little while, have got PhDs in the area within communications, but also we're both industry practitioners. We've worked in the industry, and the rest of the teaching faculty are all industry veterans. They're specialists who are currently working as consultants and now return to kind of provide that detailed knowledge, which obviously what students are looking for. So moving on to the next point here, this focus on topics which interest you the most. This runs through, for example, the assessment structure. So the assessment structure is that for each one of the individual modules that you're doing, you're going to be doing a case study halfway through in which you'll be identifying a particularly successful advertising campaign or public relations campaign, exploring how it worked and why it worked using the models, techniques and strategies that we've taught you so far. At the end of each one of those individual classes, you'll then demonstrate your ability to put that into practice. So it very much follows the model of looking at what works and then demonstrating that you can do that for yourself. It's a focus on that structure, but in terms of the topics, in terms of the domains, in terms of the field you want to go into, that's something we very much look to you for. We ask you to identify an area of interest in the fall and then build that as we go through the whole year. So when you've completed all of your coursework, rather than it being a series of sort of disconnected pieces of assessment, it's actually one long continuous portfolio demonstrating a really specific area of interest and knowledge, which you can then use as a portfolio for future work opportunities and so on. So that's where the kind of focus on topics which interest you the most comes in, and it kind of manifests itself in a number of other ways, including the professional research project that I'll be talking about towards the end. So then we've got this point about learning from both academics and industry professionals, as I've mentioned already. Everyone who teaches on the program is currently a consultant working in the field, providing their knowledge and skills to other organizations and businesses. I'm probably the most academically oriented, which is why I'm the convener, and I'm probably the junior member of the team as well. The rest of the group have all been through a kind of extensive professional career, moving up to boardroom level in kind of major industries in the UK, and now provide these opportunities to kind of access their knowledge and their contacts as well. So you do get the academic side, and obviously that's a big part of the program, but there's also a real embedding of industry skills and industry professionals. So this next point about enhanced employment opportunities in the internship and the research project. I'll be talking about the internship in a moment, but one of the advantages of our small class size is the close kind of American style attention that you get through the work with the advisor, is that we're able to organize internships with you. So we have a dedicated internship coordinator who will do a kind of 360 interview process to find a good fit for you. And we've had many of our students recruited off the internships directly into those organizations, or using those internships as a way to build the connections which lead to future employment. And the research project is an opportunity to develop a kind of portfolio item, which is great when you're thinking about job interviews and future opportunities. And all of this runs off the back of these small class settings. So we keep class sizes sometimes half the size of a UK institution and tend to open more sections rather than increasing class sizes. And that's what allows us to have the very close attention, to develop a lot of kind of creative work, to work in small groups, and to kind of have this kind of collaboration. It's the only reason it's possible to really cover both advertising and public relations, as we're primarily talking about today, within this kind of environment. And of course, we have the diverse multicultural environment for, and we will move on to the brain structure in a second. But I forgot to mention that key point. For example, in the current cohort, we have 3 is the maximum number of students from the same geographic territory. So we are talking about a highly international, highly diverse multicultural environment, which is great in terms of future networking opportunities and friendships and the kind of relationships that you build from there. Okay, so I'm going to take you through the program structure for the MA in Advertising and Public Relations. We will talk a little bit about the MA in Public Relations and Journalism. It only actually differs in 2 classes, which I'll be able to point out to you when we get to that stage. But for now, I'm just going to take you through this. Adam's obviously already addressed the matter of COVID, so I'm just going to move on to the actual structure of the semesters themselves. So in each semester, you do 3 classes. In the summer semester, it's the equivalent of 3, and I will be talking about that in a moment. So in the fall semester, you start with advertising practice. That's taught by Tim Evans. I'll be giving you a very brief kind of summary of who he is in a moment when we get to the actual faculty page. And this is the advertising practice class. Advertising practice is the opportunity to look at the kind of models, as I say, and the kind of strategy and techniques that we use to analyze how an advertising campaign is put together. And then we implement that campaign towards the end, demonstrating your ability to produce an advertising campaign for yourself. Then we have public relations practice, currently taught by Dr. Simon Target, and this is where you'll be learning about things like press releases, Q&As, putting together a press pack, building relationships with journalists, and that kind of thing. So both those classes are highly kind of professional skills oriented. And then finally, you have the class which I teach, Advertising, Public Relations and Journalism in Context, because a number of the students that we have are people who are already in the industry, who are coming back for career enhancement, using this as an opportunity to kind of transition into more senior roles. And also we'll have students who have a more general communications background rather than being specifically skilled in advertising and public relations. This is our kind of onboarding class. It'll make sure that you've got the kind of key knowledge base to be able to integrate and engage with the kind of work that we'll be doing over the course of the year. That said, it's not a kind of stodgily academic class. We have between 5 and 7 guest lecturers for each one of these classes, which gives you between 15 and 20 across the full semester, which takes you to about 30 or 40 across the whole program. It's 30 or 40 people from across the industry at various different levels, both boardroom and in recruitment, and kind of at the level that you'd maybe be looking to move into or move up from. So there's a whole range of different opportunities to speak to people, great opportunities for building relationships, but also following on for mentoring opportunities on LinkedIn and that kind of thing as well. So we try and bring in as many guest speakers and many guest opportunities as we possibly can, whilst still retaining the kind of academic spine that holds the program together. So then moving on to the spring semester, you've got advertising and public relations in the global marketing communications mix. That's currently being taught by Sanu Singh, who I'll be again talking about in a moment. She's brought in specifically because students in the fall semester had asked about the experience of women in leadership. So we recruited Sanu to kind of speak to that, and also to bring in a number of guest speakers who would address that area. The likelihood is that for the spring semester this time around, we'll actually be having her team teach that with another voice from the industry, which is how we currently run professional digital media skills. Professional digital media skills is taught by Tim Evans and Chris Fry. Chris Fry is an advertising strategist, so you'll be getting both the advertising strategy side as well as the kind of creative tools that you need in that professional digital media skills class. And then finally, your third class will be one of this list of electives which come from across the whole range of Richmond's MA offerings. So if you're looking to develop the kind of business management skills, you can look at things like project management or leading, mentoring and coaching, entrepreneurship and innovation management. If you're more interested in specific sectors like fashion, celebrities and so on, political communication, we have classes in that area. And the idea here is, as I mentioned before, that you have this kind of continuity across the full stretch of the year. So as you develop your ideas in the fall semester and you kind of specialize, let's say you're interested in the area of political communication, you can tailor your assignments in the fall semester to focus in that area, select the political communication elective, and then when we get into the summer, as I'll be talking about in a moment, you can focus your projects on political communications, giving you an entire year's worth of material all within that sphere. So moving on to talk about that now, in the summer semester, you'll be doing the internship with professional research project. So the internship isn't a requirement. If you're somebody who chooses not to do an internship for whatever reason, then it's absolutely fine. You can do what we call the extended professional research project, which is where you do an additional 3,000 to 5,000 word essay on top of the professional research project. So it's fine if you don't choose to do the internship, although the majority of our students do, because it's a great opportunity to gain work experience and also to build the opportunity for employment subsequently. As I say, a number of our students have been recruited off these internships. These are organised, as I said before, by Cecile N, our dedicated internship coordinator, who will arrange these connections, begin showing you the jobs on our jobs board, and then you can contact her, speak to the employer, and then you undertake that 6-week internship. If you're concerned about how to do it elsewhere, don't worry. As an international university, we offer lots of world internships, so you can do internships internationally rather than just in the UK. However, if you chose not to do an internship, that's fine. You'd still be able to graduate. So alongside the internship, you'll be doing your professional research project. This is the equivalent of a dissertation in that it's 10,000 words, but it's a business writing exercise. And the only rule and stipulation is that you have to identify a problem that advertising and public relations can solve. And beyond that, it's entirely up to you and your advisor to work out what it would be that that project would do, giving you a lot of scope to focus in specific industries, specific areas of ethical or political concern, so that you're able to tailor that professional research project to be really in the area of your personal interest. We try and provide that opportunity for flexibility all the way through the whole program. So I think probably I'll talk a little bit about the MA in PR and journalism, which is on the next slide, before we come back to some of the other features which kind of cover across the whole thing. So the main difference for PR and journalism, and this, as Adam says, is primarily for those of you who would be looking to defer. So you're thinking you might like to come back in the January rather than taking the PR and advertising MA. I would say that the only differences are that you would be doing journalism practice in the fall semester rather than advertising practice. And then if you get into the spring semester, you can see that it's advertising and public relations and the global marketing communications mixed in exactly the same way, and professional digital media skills. So you'd be doing the same 2 classes at that opportunity. A very slightly different list of electives, although we do have some flexibility built into that. And then finally, in the summer semester, you'd be looking at the opportunity to do a professional research project, which would generally have more of a journalism direction. But that said, they're very minor differences because the journalism is integrated quite deeply into the structure of the whole MA. So in practice, those of you who are kind of 50-50 between the two, you get the vast majority of the same content that you would have got anyway where you take the advertising and public relations MA. And the advertising and public relations MA just tends to be more popular with students. It's one of those things. So I think it was probably best is if anyone does have any questions, and Adam will show the slide later on, specifically related to the course content, and they feel like it's more complicated than maybe asking a question in the panel on the right hand side, do feel free to email me. I can clarify the difference. I can talk about the likelihood of it running in the future and so on. But we do offer it every year, and it's just one of those things. So I'm just going to talk briefly about the faculty. There's myself with a background in graphic design and web design, but now working primarily in the university as an assistant professor in digital communication. So I, as I say, am probably the junior member of the team, the rest being industry veterans, but by no means old, just veterans, all currently working as consultants, all very involved in their particular sectors and coming in to bring their kind of wealth of experience to students kind of coming into the industry. So you've got Chris Fry, as I mentioned, an advertising strategist working in the healthcare industry, which being the UK is an absolutely enormous sector, working at boardroom level and consulting at boardroom level for a whole range of different organisations. Then you've got Simon Target, who is a senior journalist at the Financial Times, or was until he became a consultant, and who kind of brings both the academic side, having achieved a PhD, but also this kind of wealth of contacts and connections and opportunities to speak to the journalism side of the programme. Then we have Tim Evans, who formerly worked as an advertising creative for British Telecom, again, when it was a national concern. So again, an enormous sector, an enormous part of the industry, and again, working at boardroom level and now bringing those opportunities to students. And finally, Sanu Singh, relatively new person joining the program, who is a journalist and interviewer who works primarily with women in leadership roles within the industry. She's just launched her own business, which is a networking site for women at high levels within advertising and public relations. Enormously well connected, a fantastic opportunity to really get a whole load of people who we normally have difficulty accessing. So she's been a fantastic person and really enjoyed speaking with the students, and has been very helpful in terms of placing students with future employers as well. So that's been really pleasant. So I think if we move on to the next slide. So the Public Relations and Communications Association, the world's largest and most influential PR and communications membership body, we are a partner university. What that means is that you get free access to webinars, networking events, social events. We sent 3 of our students to their annual conference last year. So our relationship with the PRCA runs very deeply through the MA, and you would have access to that as soon as you were fully enrolled onto the MA before it actually started. So this is like a kind of separate MA which runs parallel to the MA program that you'd be actually operating on. A fantastic opportunity to access a whole load of, yes, online learning, but primarily these fantastic free networking events in which people from across the industry all gather together. It's very enjoyable, very sociable, and again, only free and available to you because we are a partner university, which is something we're very pleased about, and a very strong relationship we developed over the course of time. The PRCA Director General, for example, is a visiting professor who comes and speaks on my courses. So there's a really good, very strong relationship there, which has been fantastic for internship opportunities as well. We've had a number of opportunities come through which wouldn't be available to anybody else, which the PRCA has chosen to give to Richmond because of the strength of our students and the strength of our relationship, which again, it's absolutely great. So just moving on to the next slide, the Centre for the Study of the Persuasive Industries. This is our academic centre, our research centre, which looks specifically at the areas of advertising, public relations, and lobbying. We've had a number of works published through that, which you can see at the bottom there, and we run a number of events over the course of the year through that research centre, and students are also able to publish their own work. So if you are thinking about moving in an academic direction, I would say the majority of our students are thinking about placement within the profession, so they're thinking about moving directly into industry and getting that kind of leg up, that kickstart into their career. But those of you who are thinking more along kind of academic lines, plenty of opportunities for speaking at those events. But also we have a whole range of other kind of spillover guest speakers who address in those. Obviously more challenging during COVID, but as we sort of move out of that phase back into the academic environment and to the space of the university, you'll see a number of those events running as well. So we have here a slide, a quote from one of our former students, a very reflective quote of the kind of positive experience students have. What I would primarily say about this is a good placeholder for me to just say that we do have a number of very enthusiastic students, all of whom are very happy, very willing to speak with people who are particularly concerned or have a particular question, or I can redirect that question, or Adam can do so to one of those students to get a bit more of a response. Our students are very happy with the program. They're very vocal about it as well. So we were very happy to do this kind of connections. So I've spoken about this briefly already, but just to reiterate it, the internship, while not necessarily mandatory, is something which we offer to all MA students to place within various different parts of the advertising and public relations industry. And this is organised by our internship coordinator, Cecile Leyen, who will organise an interview with you with one of these organisations and then place you for your 6-week internship. Some of us are particularly keen students to a couple of internships because they wanted to and they were engaged with it. We have a number of different organisations. We've worked with much larger organisations and also smaller kind of startups where students are interested in it, but primarily we tend to like students to go into those kind of middle range, largish organizations, around kind of 50 to 100 employees. It's just a great opportunity to engage with those wider circles. But again, we have internship opportunities across the whole range of the industry and in specialist industries as well. We've had people at the UK government, for example, if they've got more of a political communications interest. So during COVID, at the absolute height of COVID in the January, we were able to place all students who wanted to do internships on remote internships. So we had no difficulty, even during COVID, when they could only do remote internships, placing those students. So we wouldn't imagine any kind of challenge in that area were we to be moving forward into in the next January.
Thank you for that, Sam. And I just, please, just to reiterate that, during COVID, we did find some great internships for our students, which is, most unusual. Other universities weren't able to do that. And just to highlight for those of you that might have missed it on here, that obviously the internships are a great way to perhaps get offered a full-time job as well. So, Rhiannon, even though she was an international student, they did offer her a full-time position at the organisation once she completed her internship. So that's obviously a really positive experience, and that could happen to you too. So moving on just to tell you a little bit more about our location. So we are in Kensington, which is right here in central London, slightly sort of west side of central London. It's a very lovely, desirable area to live. It's right in the heart of the city. And for those of you that have been to London before, it's very close to sort of the British Museum, the Science Museum, Natural History Museum, and Kensington Palace as well. And you'll also see on this map, this red dot down here on the left, this Richmond campus. So we have a facility in Richmond in southwest London. This is for our bachelor's degree students. As a master's degree student, you would be based in our Kensington facility, which you can see in this picture here. And I just wanted to confirm that we don't have accommodation available here. So we don't own our own accommodation in Kensington. We work with a number of third-party providers that have rooms available for our students. So for those of you that do have questions about accommodation, I can put you in touch with our accommodation office, and then they'll direct you to these other organisations that we work with. For those of you that would like to apply for this September, there is still time. You will need to move fairly quickly just so we can get everything sorted, and so you're not too rushed to join us for our start date in September. You will need to complete our direct online application form. This can be found on the website, and then you will need to submit this along with copies of the supporting documents you can see here. So that would be a personal statement. This should be about 500 words and highlight why you want to study a Master's in Advertising and Public Relations, why at Richmond University, why the UK, any skills and experience you have in this area, any sort of practical work experience, academic work experience, and then what you would like to do in the future with this master's degree. We'd love to see a copy of your CV. We will need to see your degree certificate for your bachelor's degree, or copies of your transcripts if you are still studying. The lowest grade we can accept for this program is a 2-2, so that's the second class honours here in the UK. It's approximately 65%, or the international equivalent. If English isn't your first language, you will need a English language certificate. This is just so you can prove to us that you have the level of academic English required for a master's degree. And also for international students, if you need a visa to study in the UK, having an English language certificate is part of the visa process. You will also be invited to interview for the program as well. So once you've submitted these documents, we'll review them and then come back to you with an interview date. Tuition fees you can see here. So for UK nationals, they are £9,000 for the year. For students from every other nationality, they're £13,250. We do have some generous scholarships to help reduce these costs. So I'm actually going to jump to this slide first. So for any European students on here today, we have this very special EU Unity and Diversity Award. It's for all EU students. As long as you have the equivalent of a UK 2-2, we will award you this scholarship for September and January entry. And then for those of you that are from other countries, so if you're from the US, other countries in Asia, Africa, the Middle East, then we still have this generous scholarship here of a 15% or 20% discount based on your bachelor's degree result. So for those of you with the equivalent of a UK first, that would be a 3.7 on a 4.0 GPA, you could receive a 20% discount. And then for those of you with the equivalent of a UK 2-1, that's a 3.3. on a 4.0 scale, then you would receive a 15% discount on the tuition fees. So these scholarships are all automatically awarded once your place is confirmed. There's no separate application fee, and then the amount will be deducted from your tuition fee invoice. As you can see, contact details on the screen here. I haven't seen too many questions come into the chat box, but please do type any questions you have into the chat box and we'll be able to answer those for you. Equally, if you are more comfortable just unmuting yourself, you should all be able to do that as well, and you can just ask your question. We know there's quite a lot of information there, so obviously we'll give you a few minutes just for stuff to sink in, and then please do ask us anything at all. Please do take down Sam's email address. I will follow up with an email with you after the presentation today. But if you do have a question for Sam, we often find people think of things a few hours after the webinar's finished, or perhaps tomorrow morning, and something will pop into your head, and then please just do email us. So guys, you should all be able to access the grey control panel sort of on your screen. There's a couple of boxes there. One of them is called questions. Please feel free to type any questions you have into the box there. We've got one question here, so I'll just answer that one now. Yeah. I think there's two ways of answering the question. It's whether the advertising and PR program would be beneficial for somebody moving into marketing. So moving into marketing as a career. As you'll see, we have Sanu Singh's class, which explicitly talks about that relationship. I think, again, it would depend on which area and which sector and which part you were looking at moving into, whether your marketing background was something you wanted to kind of deepen, in which case you might want to look at some of the other master's programs which the university offers, more specifically looking at marketing at master's level. If, however, you're looking at advertising and public relations, so you want to be in that kind of more forward-facing component, more in that particular area, your knowledge and your skills that come from a marketing bachelor's degree, assuming it's similar to the one that the university offers here, will be enormously beneficial, extremely useful, and will really help you to integrate into the work that we're doing. So if you've done your bachelor's in marketing, but you've always felt like the advertising and PR side was where you wanted to lean into, you would find that the marketing background was enormously useful. So it's very helpful if that's the direction you want to move into. In terms of the kind of applicant, so if you have a bachelor's degree in marketing, one of the things that I emphasize is that our advertising, public relations, journalism and context class is specifically for onboarding. So having a bachelor's degree in marketing as opposed to specifically advertising and PR or more generally communications is absolutely not a problem. In fact, what I'm really looking for is a range of people from a lot of different backgrounds who have a really keen interest in this particular field and kind of want to engage with that. So again, to some extent, it depends on where you want to go and which aspect you want to move into. If you're very, very interested in categories and only categories, then maybe you want to be looking at MAs in marketing explicitly. But if you're interested in the wider kind of circuit of marketing and the way that advertising and PR fits into that, this would be an enormously beneficial master's program for you, even if you did end up shifting somewhat into marketing in general. Do obviously add another question if there's a more specific question you've got there. There is a question about the duration of the program. The MA in Advertising PR is a one-year program. You can do it over the course of 2 years if you're enrolled part-time. If you enroll part-time, you do 1 or 2 modules per semester. So in the fall, you could do 2. In the spring, you could do 2. The following fall, you would do the remaining 1 class, and then 1 for the spring. And then obviously you pick up the summer classes at the very end, and that would take you the full year. So it is possible to do it over the course of 2 years part-time. Obviously, in terms of visas, visa requirements, the conditions that would come with that, that's something probably best addressed to the admissions team. But if you did want to stretch it across 2 years and do it part-time, that would definitely be possible. But again, it's subject to visa requirements and any other issues you may have. It's entirely up to you. Yeah, there should be, certainly we do have students that study these programs part-time, and they're, generally there are no issues. There are some small restrictions that we'd have to check, but it shouldn't be a problem if you did wanted to study it part-time. And then just Faisal, just to put a sort of general point onto your question as well. In my experience, a more traditional MA in marketing it's maybe going to have a less of a focus sort of on the creativity side of things that I think that you would get from this sort of advertising master's program. They seem to be a bit more business sort of centric and business focused. They're just sort of in a general,
I mean,
from a general point.
I mean, that's a very good point. And I would say also with at master's level for marketing, there's a lot more of the kind of stats side of thing, a lot more on that kind of element. So if you're very keen on the back office and don't really want to be engaged in the kind of creative work, the close relationships, building relationships, the relationships with journalists, and also developing the kind of creative side, then yes, obviously that's something to bear in mind. But I think you can probably tell from the spread of what we do here, this is the focus that we have.
Yeah, nice. Guys, do we have more questions? So yeah, I've just seen something else come in, which is great.
So we've got a question about previous sort of creative work. Again, I think it's tricky to single anything out because all students will be producing specific campaigns. And one thing that's actually really interesting at the moment, and it's something that I'm working on with a student, is we're talking about the issue of menstruation and the kind of positive way in which you can kind of approach marketing the product rather than marketing the lifestyle that comes with the product. So it's got a really interesting kind of academic component that started off in just a conversation that we'd had in the spring semester and has now kind of developed into this really quite complicated, really interesting project about how you kind of promote that side of it. But again, it's hard to single specific things out. We've had another student who's working on the way in which the military can use the structure of the emotional apology through in public relations context. So how you can restructure the way the military talks about its own errors to talk about that in an emotional sense rather than purely in an analytic or a kind of logic-oriented sense, which again, one of those things that integrates that academic side, but also with the creative side. But in a kind of simpler way, we've had a number of students who've been working with outside brands and outside organizations or brands that they're engaged with to develop their own campaigns and projects. Again, I can't go into too many specifics because obviously these are kind of active students at the moment. But again, if you email me, I'm happy to send you a kind of breakdown of some of the work that students have been working on, both with outside clients, but also for their own kind of personal interest and personal engagement. I can speak to Tim and pull some of his work from advertising practice, for example. I can speak to Simon as well. So again, do feel free to drop me an email and give you a little breakdown of some of the projects that students have worked on previously. And when it comes to the interview, should you apply, you will have an interview with me. Then we can actually talk about some of the work that students have done too.
Yeah, great answer there, Sam. Thank you. And guys, and just to reiterate, while we were mentioning there about sort of the background of students, we do have a nice sort of diverse range of people that have bachelor's degrees on the program. You know, it's unusual to have a student that has a bachelor's degree in advertising and public relations, for example. You know, we'll have students with perhaps marketing degrees, business degrees, yeah, possibly what other areas, Sam?
We've had an enormous range. What we tend to find is that that diversity, that range of opinion, that range of views is one of the things that really contributes to the program. The most extreme edges has been, for example, a student with a bachelor's degree in philosophy who then had done an internship and had really enjoyed that experience and made a very, very good case in the interview and turned out to be a really, really strong student. Another student who had a background in a combination of communications, but also with kind of sports management, and decided that she wanted to work explicitly within sports, and she's working with kind of alongside the Olympic team at the moment. So there's a lot of kind of interesting crossovers in those different areas. So I think it's, even if your bachelor's degree is maybe slightly at an odd angle or you feel like it's not necessarily perfectly relevant, I'm much more interested in hearing how you talk about that, how you talk about the connection between what you do and advertising and public relations, because again, it's a communications oriented program. It's all about your ability to frame and articulate your ideas. So even if your program maybe feels like it's a little bit at a distance from it, but you're really passionate about the subject and you're really interested in the industry and you want to get into it, making that case to me is a big part of what's kind of going to be factoring into the interview process and making that decision. So yeah, if you've got a kind of straight communications background or a straight marketing background, that's nice and close, that's all to the better. But if you feel like you've got a bachelor's degree, which is, even if it's in the area of English literature, but you've done interesting things and you feel like you can make the case for how what you're doing really fits into it. And I know there's a number of students who've been working over the course of the pandemic in different industries and in different areas, and they've got a better idea of what they want to do. Talk to me about that, make that case to me, explain how that works, and convince me that that's a good fit, and we'll see how that goes.
Thank you, Sam. Guys, what other questions do we have? Guys, is there any, I will do some sort of individual follow-up with you, but is there anyone here that's interested in starting the degree this September? Because that would be sort of great to know, and we can perhaps sort of fast track a bit, a few sort of details or a bit of bit more information. Yeah, if you are interested in starting the degree this September, please do let me know, and I will, yeah, I'll send you through some further specific information about that. And just to reiterate, it's not too late to do so. Guys, you'll see here we've got social media handles. Please do follow us if you don't already, especially on Instagram. There's some really interesting posts there, or recent posts from our students talking about sort of the university and why they love Richmond and what they've got out of being in London over the last year. So guys, we will be online for sort of a few more minutes. If you do have any more questions, please do type them in the box. Otherwise, we'll be looking to finish fairly soon, but we're happy to stay here as long as you have questions and we can give you useful information. So please don't be shy, type in any questions you have, or unmute yourself. I see something's just coming now. Hi, Katrina, I did recognize your name, so that's great to hear. Thank you. Yeah, yours was the one name that I did recognize from the list. So yeah, I think you're in a great position and all sorted, so that's really good. Okay, everyone, there don't seem to be any other questions coming in. As I said, we will we'll stay around for a few more minutes, but otherwise we'll be looking to finish if there's no other questions. As I said, I will be in touch with a copy of this presentation and just with a follow-up email. But if you do have anything else to ask now, please do so. And then guys, just to reiterate again, there are our contact details if you didn't have them already. Nothing's coming directly to you, has it, Sam? Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you all for your time. We hope you found the session useful and got some good, insightful information about the programme. I will be in touch with you all over email, but otherwise we'll be looking to end now. So thank you all very much for joining us, and yeah, we'll be in touch soon.